Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful Saturday evening. So, finally, well overdue, in a lot of people's opinion, Shedeur Sanders has been drafted in the fifth round, for the Cleveland Browns. Shout out to the Browns. I have a lot of, friends and family that are huge Browns fans. And he was the number 144th pick. Now, listen, everything works in God's timing. He said that. His father, Deion Sanders, has said that. But a lot of people feel like the NFL was trying to send a clear message, almost, similarly to the message they sent to Colin Kaepernick, who just, silently took a knee against police brutality. But they felt like, and this is just, again, a lot of people's opinions, they felt like, this young man, he came from, money, right? Because Deion Sanders is doing very well. We saw photos and videos of his property. He has a huge pool. They asked him to jump in the pool with his kids. He's like, I don't jump in the pools. I build them. They had a floaty of Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I was like, come on, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy path. I was like, I didn't even know they made floaties and Bible verses, but I guess they do for the Sanders family. Shout out to the Sanders. Okay. But that just speaks to, Black wealth, a beautiful nuclear family, right? I know the Pilar has had her issues with Dion in the past, but they all came together as a united front, and that's what we love to see. And so I think that the confidence that Shedeur exudes comes from him knowing who he is and who he's growing into as a young man. Back in the day when Deion Sanders made that song "Must Be the Money," he was like really flashy, and I don't know if it was like a different time, when he made that, but I'm sure he probably had his fair share of haters too. It just wasn't social media back then. Those it was like the Video Soul and the BET, music video days. But I want to play a couple clips um, from people who are a lot more, familiar with the sports world than I am. The first clip that I want to play you guys is from Robert Griffin III. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I can appreciate the fact that, he has been a professional athlete most of his life, and he knows, again, right, the professional sports world behind the curtain. So let's hear what he has to say.
Sanders' confidence and ability is what the NFL craves. You have to be able to galvanize a locker room. And that's exactly what Shedeur Sanders can do. So why is he being punished by falling out of the first 2 rounds of the draft? Well, I'm not mad that Shedeur Sanders fell out of the first 2 rounds of the draft, but I am confused because his tape says that he's a first-round pick. His tape says that he's a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. So why are we sitting here now after the first 3 rounds and he hasn't been picked? It's about jealousy. It's personal. Deion Sanders, all-time great cornerback in NFL history. He's done an amazing job raising his sons, done an amazing job preparing them for the next level. Shedeur Sanders is prepared for this moment. I've got no question about it that whether he gets drafted in rounds 4 through 7 or he goes undrafted, he will have a successful NFL career. So why are we punishing Shedeur Sanders for the things that we absolutely crave, desire, and want from our quarterbacks? Take these things off, man. I've heard some people say that there's a difference between arrogance and confidence, and I don't disagree. There's a difference between arrogance and confidence. When you're arrogant, you've done nothing to warrant how confident you are at what you can do. It's the whole you fake it till you make it. But that's not Shedeur Sanders' story. Shedeur Sanders is confident because of what he has been able to accomplish as a leader of men at two separate universities, at two separate levels between an HBCU in Jackson State and Colorado. When he says, I'm not worried about the haters, I've been dealing with this my entire life. What's wrong with that? When he says to an NFL team, if you want to change your program, you want to change your franchise, come get me. If you don't want to, don't draft me. What's wrong with that? That's not arrogant. That's confidence. That's the same level of confidence that Baker Mayfield had when he told the Cleveland Browns, you better draft me. Same confidence that Peyton Manning had when he told the Indianapolis Colts, if you don't draft me, you will regret it forever. Why is it that we're punishing Shedeur Sanders for the things that we celebrate from other quarterbacks? That doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me. Shedeur Sanders' tape is what says he's a first-round pick. Not his daddy. Not any favoritism from the media. If you go watch his tape is better than the quarterbacks who were drafted before him, not named Cam Ward. And you could go so far as to say that, hey, Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, flip a coin. I got no problem with that. I've called games for Jackson Dart. I know how talented that young man is. But you can't tell me that his tape wasn't better than Tyler Shucks. You can't tell me that. So no, Shedeur Sanders does not have the strongest arm in this draft class. No, Shedeur Sanders is not a 6'5", 245-pound quarterback. No, Shedeur Sanders is not a 4'3" athlete. But he is good enough as an athlete. He is good enough of an NFL arm to make every single throw. There's not a throw he can't make on the field. And his tape and his leadership shows up. It showed up at Jackson State. It showed up at Colorado. That's why he was rated as the number 2 quarterback. For him to fall out of the first 3 rounds is absolutely ridiculous and only fueled by personal hatred towards him or jealousy. I don't understand it, man.
So there you have it, right? And you know what? I can absolutely agree. I feel like there was some kind of animosity toward whether it was him or his father, Dion. I do feel like, they were trying to send a message. And it's unfortunate because oftentimes, kids get caught in the crossfire and it's not necessarily his fault. I don't see someone who was necessarily arrogant. Like, again, I have to go back and watch his interviews because some people were saying that he wasn't prepared or, he may have come across unlikable, whatever the case may be. But I feel like those are projections from people who don't necessarily understand the power that comes from being raised in or by having a strong father figure in your life as a young man. When you have someone who, has a strong support system and, as RG3 said, that he can actually back up his ability and, he comes from a wealthy family, then why would you expect him to be, passive and docile and demure? He's coming to the National Football League. He's coming to be a professional warrior. You want someone who is not only, confident in what they're doing, but confident. You have to be confident. Jalen Hurts is another one who is very strategic. He's very disciplined. And he has that very, cool underlying confidence about him that allowed him to lead the Philadelphia Eagles to the Super Bowl and win. It's a champion mindset. And if you guys remember that clip where Venus and Serena Williams, their father, Richard, it was a reporter who was trying to undermine, I believe it was Venus when she was like a young girl. And he had to step in and he's like, listen, he's like, if she said, because he asked the, young Venus if she could beat her opponent. And she's like, yeah, I know I can. And he's like, stop trying to undermine, stop trying to mess with her confidence. This is a child. Now I get it, Shedeur is not a child anymore, but he has been raised with that foundation of having a very strong, father, Deion Sanders, who's God fearing, who, is a professional athlete himself. Not only was he a top athlete and a football player, but he also went on to be, a coach at Jackson State in Colorado. So he knows what it takes. He knows the discipline that it takes to be great. He's also, reached the pinnacle of his career, both as a player and a coach. So he instilled those lessons into his sons. Now he has two sons in the NFL. Um, but yeah, just, constantly trying to, humble and humiliate these young men. I feel like it's very personal. I feel like RG3 absolutely, could see it for what it is. Listen, another person who most of the time the things that he says are a bit, off off in space somewhere. But Stephen A. Smith actually, has spoken out as well. And typically, I don't agree with a lot that Stephen A. Smith says, especially when he went after LeBron James's son, Bronny. But here, I feel like, and maybe this is his, redemption arc, I don't know, but I feel like he makes a lot of sense in what he's saying as well. Since he's a sports commentator, let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
But if you're the National Football League, okay, clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion. Because how in the hell does 32 teams in the National Football League pass on a quarterback that was universally recognized, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country entering this draft, and 32 teams passed on him, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 different times they passed on him? How the hell does that happen? 4 rounds. It doesn't happen to a quarterback. We've never seen anything like this before. We've seen guys drop because of injuries. We've seen guys drop because of off-field issues, but we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that. Primetime Deion Sanders' natural bravado, coupled with that of his son. They say that the whole interview process wasn't that impressive when he showed up at the NFL scouting combine and refused to work out. That hurt him. The interview process while he was there hurt him, etc., etc. You know what, y'all? I get it. It makes perfect damn sense if he's drafted in the 2nd round. It's the fact that he fell to 5th that's alarming. So in other words, you're willing to collectively send that kind of message, and don't act like it wasn't a collective effort. For all we know, teams collectively, meaning owners, had come to the conclusion nobody's going to touch them in the first 4 rounds. All right, now that the round 5 is here, our message has been sent, so y'all can go about the business of sort of lifting the embargo, for lack of a better phraseology. I don't know what the hell happened. All I know is this: it's freaking unfair. It ain't right. A complete and utter lack of appreciation for what primetime Deion Sanders has done for the game of football. Primetime Deion Sanders had more swag, more bravado than anybody you could ever imagine. What else he do? All the brother did was go out there and perform at a very, very elite level, bring pizzazz and sizzle to your product, helping it grow into this multi-billion-dollar brand. Has a great relationship with the commissioner, has a great relationship with a bevy of players and coaches in the National Football League, knows the sport backwards and forwards. And because of his swag and his bravado, whatever, y'all gonna turn against him. How about y'all should have drafted Shedeur Sanders earlier because of that alone? Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, was targeted because primetime Deion Sanders was targeted. What happened to Shedeur Sanders, in part, not totally, but in part, was a direct assault on Deion Sanders. He did not deserve this. His son didn't deserve it. His play didn't deserve this. His production didn't deserve this. His projected skill set didn't deserve this. His accomplishment didn't deserve this. And his pedigree didn't deserve it. Because say what you will about Deion Sanders, he has never taken from the game. He has only given to it.
All right, and there you have it. Y'all know Stephen A. Smith gets a little loud and passionate, but his message was clear, right? That this was a targeted attack to send a message directly to Deion Sanders. And I feel like he absolutely is right. He's never taken from the game. He's only given inspiration, his time, his blood, his sweat, his tears, and now his children. And I cannot wait to follow Shedeur Sanders in his career. I hope that his jersey sells out. I hope that he is, he thrives as a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I hope that he shatters records and he proves all of his haters wrong. I have the utmost faith that he will be successful. He has a praying father who, again, is not only a master of the game, but also just somebody who has an incredible work ethic and loves his family. He has that support system there that can give him the guidance and wisdom that he needs. So to be great, even possibly greater than Deion. So I appreciate, the sports commentary, and people just realizing the fact and calling it out for what it is, not trying to gaslight, not trying to sidestep. We've heard a lot of that in the past, but now people are, seeing just motives for what they are, and not being afraid to call them out and call them how you see it. That's exactly how it should be. Because there's no reason why, Shedeur shouldn't have been picked up in the first round draft. He should have been a first round draft pick. He absolutely should have. Um, in my opinion, there's no reason why he shouldn't have. But nevertheless, he's there now, and I hope that he just has an amazing time. Whether he chooses to stay in Cleveland or not, it's up to him. Maybe he can even, talk with LeBron and get to know, some of the best places in the city, or not necessarily LeBron. I'm sorry, Bronny. I know they're in LA now, but Bronny's from Akron, which is only half an hour down the road from Cleveland, and he played for the Cavs for a while. I know Tristan Thompson has already written a welcome to Cleveland text, or not text, but tweet on Twitter. So listen, I'm excited to see what he is going to do. Um, I think that him, and his brother, they're going to dominate, and I'm so here for it because people are they're inspired by the Sanders family, just seeing Deion continuously, pour into his children, to guide them and to uplift them in spite of everybody trying to, target them and diminish their talent and their greatness. What God has for you is for you. And so I'm glad that they have their father there to remind them of that. So we all got your back, Shedeur. We can't wait to see what, is in store for you, what you are going to do um, in Cleveland. Hopefully, he can take them all the way to the Super Bowl. Who knows? So I'm looking forward to it. You guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will you guys be watching him? Will you buy his jersey? Support? What did you guys think about him being a fifth round pick instead of first, like most people, including myself, thought that he should have been? Let me know if you thought it was a targeted attack against Dion. And please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit your notification bell so that, when I do make new videos, you guys will be informed. Let me know if there's something specific that you want me to cover, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.